Royal Caribbean CEO fields questions on whether or not children aged 5 to 11 will be required to receive vaccines in order to cruise with the line. MSC has a brand new ship in the works and she's bound for Miami, and she just reached a major milestone. Carnival Cruise Line is providing an update on their holiday testing plans. Plus, we've been following the saga of Jewel of the Seas, the ship that struggled with COVID during the entire Mediterranean season. Well, she's now on her second sailing out of US waters, and it's time to do a little looking into what's going on with Jewel of the Seas. All this coming up on Midships. Hey, welcome to the Midships YouTube channel. I'm your Captain Corey, and thank you so much for stopping by the channel today. Well, it is officially Thanksgiving week, and you can see just over my left-hand shoulder, we've got the turkey fryer just waiting for the big day. Now, I'd love to hear about some of your Thanksgiving plans, so why don't you do me a favor, leave them down in the comments section below. Maybe you're going to be spending Thanksgiving on a cruise ship. How exciting would that be? But we're going to shift gears here to Carnival Cruise Lines as they are updating some of their testing for the holiday season. Let's learn a little bit more from cruisehive.com. By Robert McGilvery, Carnival updates testing for the holiday season. Pre-cruise testing remains one of the most critical items to be crossed off the list before you're allowed to cruise. It's good to see that Carnival remains on top of things by constantly evolving and making the requirement a little easier for cruisers to achieve. The cruise line provided updates to testing availability over the holiday season, with the possibility of extending the testing at embarkation program and updates to testing for back-to-back cruises. And we're going to cover testing at embarkation first. While the CDC's pre-cruise testing requirements may not be to all of our liking, there's no denying that the various protocols that have been implemented have helped the cruise industry start up again safely. That being said, being tested 2 days before your cruise begins is not the most straightforward procedure to complete, especially when driving or flying to your embarkation port. This month, Carnival Cruise Line set up a test where guests can be tested at embarkation at the port before boarding their cruise. Although the test comes at a steep $100 per person price, guests are guaranteed to have their results returned within just 30 minutes. According to Carnival's brand ambassador John Heald, the line is now thinking about at least extending the testing at embarkation through the rest of the holiday season. So while nothing is certain yet, many will be happy to hear if the cruise line does extend the on-site testing through December. One thing that will be available through the holiday season is the home testing procedure. Last but not least, Carnival Cruise Line also announced that they'll be offering complimentary tests for all back-to-back and side-to-side cruisers. This includes cruises where guests get off one of Carnival's ships and go to another Carnival ship within 7 days, and cruises where guests remain on the same ship for 2 or more consecutive voyages in a row. So with the nationwide testing shortage looming and people not understanding that they can do the home eMed test kits, this is a great safety net coming out of Carnival Cruise Line. I'm so glad that they've decided to join in on the testing at embarkation. Now, you guys know I love cruise ship restarts, and we have yet another one to report on. Coming from cruiseindustrynews.com. New Statendam becomes 5th ship to resume service for Holland America line. The new Statendam is welcoming guests back today in Fort Lauderdale as the 5th ship to resume service for Holland America. The 2018 built vessel is starting a 7-night cruise to 4 destinations in the Bahamas and Jamaica, the first of its winter program in the Caribbean. Through March of next year, the ship will offer 14 additional cruises to the Eastern, Western, as well as Southern Caribbean. Built in Italy, the new Statendam originally entered service in 2018 as a sister ship to the 2016 built Koningsdam. That's a lot of damn ships. As the second in the Pinnacle class, the vessel shares similarities with its 2 other sister ships. With the new Statendam now in service, 5 vessels are sailing for the brand, including the brand new ship, the Rotterdam. And I was actually lucky enough to catch a glimpse of not only the Rotterdam, but also the new Statendam just the other day while I was down in Port Everglades. And speaking of new ships, MSC has something brand new on the horizon. Let's learn a little bit more about the brand new Seascape. From cruiseradio.net by Sarah Bretz, MSC Seascape is floated out, set to debut in Miami next year. MSC Cruises is celebrating the float-out of their newest ship, the MSC Seascape, at the Fincantieri shipyard in Malfacone, Italy. The vessel will be delivered in November of 2022 and become the line's second Seaside Evo-class ship after the MSC Seashore, which was christened in the Bahamas just the other day. MSC also announced during a media briefing aboard the Seashore that the Seascape will be making her debut next year in Miami, Florida. Now, the rest of today's episode will be focused entirely on Royal Caribbean, and we're going to start off with Jewel of the Seas. Many of you who've watched the Midships channel for a while now will know the Jewel of the Seas has been sailing over in the Mediterranean, and she has just constantly seen way too many COVID cases on board the ship. And we've been following this story through a website called cruiselawnews.com, and they've provided yet another update on Jewel of the Seas, as she has now officially started her sailings out of the US. So, from Jim Walker's cruiselawnews.com, in an article published by Jim Walker, as expected, CDC has issued a yellow COVID warning for Jewel of the Seas. So, as we expected, the US CDC has now issued a yellow warning on November 16th for Jewel of the Seas, indicating that the Royal Caribbean ship has reached the threshold of COVID cases sufficient for the CDC to initiate an investigation into the outbreak on board the ship. As reported in prior articles, there's been a continuous number of COVID cases on board for the past 6 weeks, as the vessel sailed in the Greek Isles from her home port of Limassol, Cyprus. There have been over 100 positive cases involving guests or crew members on board Jewel of the Seas during this time period, including 8 crew members who tested positive when the ship sailed across the Atlantic to South Florida to begin sailing her Western Caribbean cruises out of Miami. And unfortunately, the news has gotten worse for Jewel of the Seas since that article was published back on the 16th of this month. We're now going to go ahead and see what status Jewel of the Seas is currently in, and unfortunately, it is definitely worse. So, this is the Cruisely.com tracker that Tanner Calise puts out. I would highly encourage you to check this out. It will also be linked out in the description below. This has every U.S. cruise ship status. This is updated right now through the 18th of this month. I would anticipate come tomorrow, it will be updated through the 20th, would be my guess here. But we're going to go ahead and focus now on Royal Caribbean. And you can see right here the Jewel of the Seas, NA. You can see on the 16th they started out in yellow status, and you can see just 3 days later the vessel has found itself in an orange status. So that means things have only gotten worse for Jewel of the Seas since this article was published by cruiselawnews.com. As usual, we'll continue following this story. I personally know some people sailing on board Jewel of the Seas. Keep those masks on yourselves just a little bit more than you normally would if you're sailing on any of these ships in orange status. And as a side note, you guys know that I just got off Odyssey of the Seas, and I was able to independently corroborate from multiple sources that there were at least 6 cases on board the ship during my cruise. So I would expect Odyssey of the Seas to maybe potentially look at bumping into the yellow status again as we move into next week. I'm not sure the total number of people on board my cruise, but I can definitely say it is the busiest any cruise ship's been on for me, at least since I've started sailing a couple months ago. There were actually times where I had to walk around the Windjammer multiple times before I could find a table to sit at in the buffet. And that's not the only story coming out from Royal Caribbean this week about the evolving vaccination requirements on cruise lines, and we're going to get an update from their CEO. From Cruisely.com by Tanner Calise. Royal Caribbean CEO provides update for vaccination requirements for children. The recent announcement from the U.S. health authorities that kids age 5 to 11 are now eligible to receive vaccines means millions more children can get the shot. For cruise lines, however, it also raises a big question. Will kids be required to have a vaccine in order to sail? Here's a photo of Royal Caribbean CEO Michael Bailey. He's over here on the right in the purple shirt answering questions here. So on one hand, cruise lines want to sail with as many people vaccinated as possible. On the other hand, many parents are hesitant about the shot for their children. While vaccines are widely required across cruise lines for those 12 and older, the opening up of the shot to younger children hasn't prompted all cruise lines to immediately extend the requirement to younger children just yet. Now, there are some outliers to this rule. Of course, Disney Cruise Line and Holland America Cruise Line in just the last couple days have come out and said, hey, children are going to be required to receive the vaccination. So there's at least a couple cruise lines. If that's the option that you want, a fully vaccinated cruise, you do have some options out there. So let's keep reading here. During a question and answer session aboard Odyssey of the Seas, Royal Caribbean CEO Michael Bailey was asked if his cruise line will require vaccines for younger children and any potential timeline that may arise for it. His response? The cruise line's not made a decision yet, but they're watching things. And here's a quote from Michael Bailey. We haven't made a final decision yet on the vaccine for children age 5 to 12. It was recently announced and it takes time for parents to make their own decision. Our initial data shows us, which we think may change, that around 35% of parents are thinking of having their children between age 5 and 11 vaccinated. But we believe that number will increase and change going forward, so we're watching the situation. Bailey went on to say, Royal Caribbean is a family brand, so obviously they're quite focused on looking at the data that's coming out. For now, Royal Caribbean's current policy looks to continue in place as is. This allows children younger than 12 to sail without a vaccine at this time. However, there are some restrictions for unvaccinated passengers on board. That includes greater testing requirements, as well as restrictions on places and venues on the ship that they can visit. Rival cruise line Carnival recently updated their policies to encourage parents to consider the vaccine for younger children as a way to ensure they're allowed to sail on the line should things change in the future. However, as of this recording, Carnival is also not requiring the shot for kids age 5 to 11. And I'd like to note that at least on my most recent cruise on Odyssey of the Seas, it was still quite empty of children on board. Yes, there were more than I'd seen on any other cruise ship, but it was noticeably down from pre-pandemic levels. So if you made it this far into today's video, why haven't you subscribed to the channel yet? While you're down there subscribing, please do me the biggest favor that you can and smash the thumbs up button. That tells the YouTube algorithm to share this video with other cruisers like yourself. Thanks so much for stopping by the channel today, and until tomorrow, we'll see you on the Midships.
la 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 la